Welcome to Tilly's Trans Tuesdays. I put this one off for actual years because I just didn't feel able to discuss it, but now I do. Maybe? I don't know. Let's find out together as we talk finding our trans style. Hi, I'm Tilly Bridges, your host, and I'm joined by my writing partner, my best friend, my wife, our token cis representation, the only lady who routinely tells me I'm pretty, Susan Bridges.
Hello!
Our returning guest is Max, a screenwriter from Sonoma, California. Pursuing his childhood dream of making movies, he is now proud to call Los Angeles home. As a gay trans man, Max is passionate about bringing more gay and trans-centered stories to the forefront. Max writes character-based dramas, specifically stories that examine complicated relationship dynamics. Welcome back, Max.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so let's talk about screenwriting because we absolutely have that in common. How'd you get into it and how'd you settle on that being the path for you?
So I'm like, unlike anyone else, I always love movies. But
Yeah.
I really always have loved movies. And I don't know, specifically, like, I don't know, just certain kinds of relationships. Like one of my favorite movies growing up, I think the first time I watched it, I was 4 or 5, was My Fair Lady. And the sort of just relationship dynamics in that movie, I was like, whoa, this is wild. And it's pretty interesting to see how that type of relationship dynamic has played itself out multiple times in my own life and also in my writing. So I don't know. I just, as I like got older and started experiencing my own life more, I was like, I want to write about this. I could see this as a movie. And I didn't immediately turn to screenwriting. We just didn't really have a program like that at the college I was at.
Yeah.
But I went to Sonoma State University but I was like, I did creative writing and I did like a bunch of fiction writing and wrote a bunch of short stories and stuff. And so it was always something I enjoyed and was good at. But then it was only like maybe like towards the end of being in college where I was like, I want to be like a screenwriter. Like I want to work in the film industry. I want to make movies. Like it's always something that I like had this far off idea of. I just never felt like I could access it for myself. Like it always felt like something that was for other people. But
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
had that same thing.
yeah, I remember like talking about it with my husband and being like, oh, like if I could do anything, if I could have anything, I would, if I was braver, I would just like, you know, go to LA and try to make it in the movie industry. He's like, well, why don't we just like do that then? Like, what's like,
Yeah.
why even like, like he was just very much like, we don't have kids right now. We just graduated. He's a teacher, so he can work anywhere. So yeah, we did it. And that's kind of how that worked out.
Yeah, Susan and I hit that same realization because, we initially lived in the Midwest and it's like there's no real screenwriting presence there. You think it's something other people do. You don't even know how to get into it. And I remember us thinking one day, your sister was already living out here. And we're like, if she can do it, wait a minute, why can't we? We could also live out there and try to make a go of writing for movies and TV.
Yeah.
You're giving me a look.
Right. Her husband at the time was working in the military and
Yeah.
was going out to, I don't know, San Diego, Long Beach, something. I don't know.
There's a lot of military.
I remember that we were like, why does she get to live out there when she doesn't even want to be a writer?
That's not fair.
Yeah,
Wait,
I
we could
mean,
do it. I mean, moving was another,
we were so poor.
yeah, it was at the height of when we had almost no money, and but we saved up just enough to do it, and we didn't know how we were going to survive, but here we are. So
Grandparents.
my grandparents helped a lot. Yeah,
We moved 2,000 miles.
and we sure did. Ah, and now we're all on strike, so it's going great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Max, what has been the most surprising thing about your transition?
The most surprising thing, I don't know, like, this is such an obvious answer, but you know how when you're feeling something in a moment, or not even a moment, in a period of time, it's really hard to like feel like you're not going to feel that way for the rest of your life about
Yeah.
something. Like, I always thought I would have the same relationship to certain issues in relation to myself being trans, or just transness as a whole, or whatever. I thought I would always have the same relationship to things, and that I would always feel the same way about certain aspects of myself too. But it's just been very interesting to see like how, I don't know, much things have fluctuated for me, and how I've like gone through lots of different evolutions within the past 7 years now.
Yeah, no, I totally get that because I remember like when I was just starting to transition and like you hope that it's going to alleviate dysphoria and it's going to make you feel better, make you feel at home, and maybe you'll see yourself in the mirror, but you don't know. And so when it finally
Hmm.
starts to happen, it's like it's a huge surprise because you've gone your whole life without that, and it's easy to fall into, well, it's always going to be this way and it's never going to get better and you just have to figure out how to cope. And yeah, it was kind of mind-blowing when things actually started getting better. I was like, wait, this is working. Oh my God.
I think too, like, it took me like a minute to like, I really had to have a difficult moment of like, oh, just because I've like reached this certain benchmark that for me was this really big, big thing, that I thought if I could just get to these things that were so big for me, but maybe to cis people were somewhat arbitrary in the end of it. Like, if I, after I have top surgery, everyone's going to see me in this way, everyone around me. And like, to see that some people were still kind of having the same sort of attitudes towards me that they had prior, that was hard for me.
Yeah.
So kind of like, I don't know, for me, having the sort of parallel experience, I guess, of like, oh my God, like, I didn't realize I could ever actually look like this. This is amazing. This is what
Yeah.
I would have done this ages ago had I
Yeah.
known it was an option. But like, also really having to like understand like that it, not to sound fake deep, but like the how much of the validation and self-worth stuff, it really needs to come from within yourself, and having that like confidence and acceptance within yourself, because that piece of it for me took so long, like so long. Like, I only reached that point that I, and not to say I don't still struggle with aspects of it, but I would say like I reached a point that I'm comfortable with about 3 years ago.
Yeah. It definitely takes a lot of time and you don't know when it's going to happen, right? Or if it ever will. Again, one
No.
of those things where you're like, it's a surprise when it does. So I totally get that. It's a tough thing to have to go through and not know, where you're going to be on the other side, or if you are going to get there, when that'll happen. It's all just a bunch of unknowns all the way through. So that's fun. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you had one piece of advice for people just starting their transitions, what would it be?
Just listen to yourself and be yourself. I mean, I feel like that sounds so obvious and kind of cheesy, but really just like, I think that's so important, because like, for me in the beginning, the big, I don't even really know what is going on now for like for the youth, but like, I don't really know what's going on now, but for me at age 20, the big thing was these trans guys on YouTube, like these YouTubers. And I just remember being like, oh, because they were the only like representations of trans masculinity that I had seen. I was like, oh, I have to be like that. That's how I
Yeah.
should dress. That's how I should be. Which I'm like, it really doesn't make sense now, because like I could have just looked at any guy on the street and then
Yeah.
said that same thing. But it well, no, it was these really. I'm like, these were YouTubers, and just okay. But yeah, no, like I was really attached a large sense of my identity in the first several months, which felt like an eternity of my transition, to this really small group of like trans guy YouTubers. And I think a lot of people did at that time. At least speaking for people in the trans masculine community, I don't know. Like, I guess I wish, in hindsight, I wish that I had just kind of been like, what do I want to be? What do I want to look like? What do I want to dress like? Because it was, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. No, I get it, because I think even there are a lot of expectations, no matter where you fall on the gender spectrum when you're transitioning to your true self. And a lot of people will lay expectations on you and say, you're not really trans if you don't do X, Y, and Z. And that's always, complete garbage. There's no one right way to do it. All that's important is being true to yourself and who you are. So I think that is a great piece of advice. You said it very well.
Thank you.
Okay, and before we dive into this week's topic, remind people where they can find you online afterwards if they would like to check out Max. Not necessarily in that way, but in any way. Okay.
In whatever way you want.
Okay.
But anyway, my Instagram is the best place to find me. It's max.luque, so max.luque.
Excellent. All right, so let's get into this topic. For trans people who transition as adults, figuring out our style is something of a giant puzzle. Well, I presume there are some lucky trans folks who thought their style would be X. They transitioned and tried on X, and it was a perfect magic happy land. But it certainly wasn't that way for me, and I imagine trans kids in welcoming environments who can socially transition at home go through something similar, although depending on how early they know, they may luckily spend most of their lives without this issue. Every person goes through different phases or eras of style in their life. Our thoughts and opinions and tastes change throughout our lives. So changing the way you want to present yourself and your hair and your clothes, shoes, and more are constantly evolving, and that makes sense. But for some of us trans folks who transition as adults, we're basically starting from scratch. Getting to choose the clothes I actually wanted for the first time in my life was overwhelming, especially transitioning from traditionally male-flavored clothing to traditionally female-flavored clothing. The options were just unending. And while women's clothing has a whole host of issues, variety and choice isn't one of them. But it definitely is for men's clothing, and if you'd like more info on that, see the Trans Tuesday on heavily gendered clothes and trans people, episode 15 of this show. So before I began my social transition, which I knew was coming at a certain date, which I've talked about before, I spent hours, days probably, just browsing women's clothes online, trying to find out what I'd want to wear, what was or wasn't available in my sizes, and so on. And when I started buying them, I was just throwing everything at the wall to see what would stick. I mean, there was stuff I knew I absolutely had no interest in wearing, but there was a lot of stuff I just wasn't sure about or was intrigued by, but I had no frame of reference. So I just got the stuff I liked and hoped all would be well. All was not well. I mean, it was nothing catastrophic, but I had no idea how difficult it would be. And one of the big reasons was that I was still having difficulty separating clothes I thought women looked great in from clothes I would look great in or that I wanted to wear, which is absolutely 100% part of the Trans Tuesday on Sexuality is Not Gender. You can see right in there that I thought my remarkable affinity for bows was in seeing them on women, which it is, but it's also a very deep part of that my own subconscious desires to be the one wearing them. I wanted to ask if you ran into that issue, Max, where you saw clothes that you thought guys looked good in, but didn't realize it was a desire to be the one wearing those clothes.
Yeah, definitely. I remember I was, well, because it was like both kind of like, because my husband, like, he always asks me for like input when he's buying clothes. And I remember being like, oh, it's so much more fun buying clothes for Jay than it is like for me. I
Yeah.
hate shopping for myself. Like, I love shopping for Jay. And it's because it was like, it just was easier. I like for so many reasons. And like, it was some of the stuff that would like pick for him or like help him with. It wasn't even necessarily stuff that I would wear because it's more his vibe than my vibe, but like I just didn't feel the sense of anxiety and dread in the
Yeah.
men's section because it was where I was supposed to be. And yeah, I also like in high school and in college, like I was like totally obsessed with One Direction. And I remember they would have these like not matching outfits, but like they'd be like coordinated sort of outfits. And I remember being like, oh wow, like they're so cool. They're so cool. Like they're so hot. Like, and like, but it wasn't just because I was like, oh, like I'm attracted to them. It was like, oh, I also wish that I was able to like wear some of
Yeah.
these clothes just in my normal life. Like obviously like they were like a boy band and much of it was probably like over the top, but for like the most part they wore just like normal clothes like that you would just see someone wear. And I was like, oh yeah, wish that I was comfortable in what I was wearing. LOL, but I was not.
Yeah. Yeah, that is all so very familiar. I have been there. And also, okay, look, women's clothes are designed with cis women in mind. I think I talked about this a bit back in the Trans Tuesday on clothes, but I had to buy extra big women's jeans so that there was enough room in the crotch for equipment cis ladies don't have. Over time, and as HRT changed things and my tucking shifted, I was able to size them down to what's actually appropriate for my waist. If you need a refresher on HRT or tucking and binding, please see their respective Trans Tuesdays. And you can see me talking about the way tucking changed for me in the Trans Tuesday on Trans Freedom and, believe it or not, Underwear, episode 25 of this show. But for a long time, I just didn't have any hips. I have some small ones now, which I talked a bit about in my 3-year retrospective, which you can hear as episode 29, but I still don't really have much of a butt. So my jeans are often a little baggy back there. And skirts, okay, skirts I really like. But guess what? Many cuts and styles are made for cis women who have hips. And so without much in the way of hips to speak of, they looked terrible on me. They accentuated just how little to no hips I had. But then I learned about A-line skirts and swing dresses, and to the ladies out there, trans or cis, without much in the way of hips, those are built to flare out at the waist, and so they make it look like you do have hips. That was a game changer. Max, I wanted to ask if you've run into clothes that were made with cis men in mind that just don't look the way on you that you would want them to.
Literally like all shorts, pretty
Oh,
much, which is rough, like with a few exceptions, but like it's hard because, you know, in addition to being trans, I'm also Latino, which to generalize, like we're not the tallest of folks out there generally. Like my dad's not that tall. And also like I'm not like I don't have like a large body. Like I'm pretty small. And so you know, you can imagine how shorts look. Like I feel like my legs just look so tiny in them and they look just comically large around my thighs. Like even I'm like the waist will be fine, but the like my thighs just like don't look normal in them at all. So that is always challenging for me. Or they fit just like way longer than they are meant to.
yeah.
There are a lot of really
Yeah.
long men's shorts.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about that because it's like this thing, I think it's probably somehow tied in with toxic masculinity, but like men's shorts are all generally pretty long. Like short shorts or even moderately short shorts for men are kind of hard to come by. And so if you're not very tall, I was wondering if that also is kind of an issue for you. Are they all like way too long to actually be effective shorts?
I am so not a supporter of the long shorts movement.
Yeah.
I just have to be very honest. I'm like above the knee, above the knee, above the knee, everyone. But I, yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like when I'm like, okay, lengthwise, these seem fine. It's like the thigh issue where it's just like they're
Right.
not. But I feel like I finally now have a really actually good amount of shorts. And weirdly, like 3 of them are hand-me-downs from my little brother.
Oh, that's cute though.
That
It
is.
is cute. It is cute. Actually, a lot of my like shirts that I have are like hand-me-downs from him. So, like, yeah, it's nice. And he has a good sense of style, which is cool. But
Even better.
like, yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't know. That's one kind of article of clothing that it's just hard for me. And also just like formal wear is difficult to find stuff that adequately fits, because I feel like a lot of times like shirts or just like whatever, like again, like my body's like small. So I'm like, okay, extra small and size 26 waist. So I'm just buying tiny clothes. But when it's formal wear, it's like a different situation. Like I feel like it's just so hard for me to find something that actually fits. So I just got married a few months ago, and I had severe anxiety about, I'm like, what am I going to wear? How's it going to work? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
What if, because I'm like, I don't want to look different than he looks like when it's happening. I want us to have
Right.
like matching situations. Like it worked out really well, but I just, I had to get like my shirt had to get like totally like tailored,
Right.
like the heck out
Tailoring.
of.
It is the solution to so many things.
You know what that costs?
Seriously.
Money.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, well, let me just tell you that you are right. It looked great on you because I saw the pictures you posted and you looked wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so while I was going through all of these clothes I had, trying to figure out what I liked for me and not just seeing other women in, and what also looked good on me with my body type and shape. And then I had to figure out what style of those things I liked.
And I wanted to just
Yes.
I kind of understood where you were coming from, like trying to figure all of this stuff out.
Yeah.
Because I actually did not figure out my style until very late, because I was raised in a very conservative Christian household and I was not allowed to basically choose my clothing
Right.
until I moved out.
So
That's
then you were
rough.
starting from scratch.
It was very complicated.
Yeah. Well, there's a running gag out there among some folks about how trans women, especially those who are newly out, have zero fashion style or sense, or fashion sense or style, whichever way I messed that up. It's fine. Let's just move on. But like, this is why we have to figure it all out. And cis women get their whole lives to do that, or at least half of their lives, like for Susan. But, give us a break, dang it. We're doing the best we can. And as I've also mentioned many times, I didn't get to be a little girl or a teen girl or even a young adult woman. Does a trans woman's style go through those phases as we experience all we missed out on? I don't know. Maybe this stuff is all complicated to figure out. And, like I just said, what all of that takes, time and money. I'm super busy and I'm not rich, but I still have a lot more than a lot of trans people, which is a privilege that I talked about in the Trans Tuesday on that very topic last week in episode 32. I was trying to think of the best way to show you my style evolution over time, and I think one of the best ways is with my glasses. And the easiest spot to show you that is in my transition timeline photo that I posted with the aforementioned 3 years out and on HRT Retrospective. In the pre-transition photo, those are the kind of incredibly understated and bland glasses I had my whole life up until I began my social transition. They track completely with the clothes I was wearing then, mostly utilitarian stuff that was baggy and hid my body. Anything that would not draw attention to myself anyway, because that was the last thing I wanted. I talked a bit about that in the Trans Tuesday on Confidence, which was episode 31 of this show. The glasses in my day 1 and 1 year in the timeline pics are the same. a kind of colorful floral print, but the shape is still very gender neutral. It's asinine that even glasses are gendered in our society, by the way, but the fact of the matter is that they very much are. And so were my clothes at the time. I mean, I had women's clothes, but a lot of them were less overtly feminine, or were feminine in subtle ways, or even gender neutral stuff I just didn't have the courage to wear before transition. I had a second set of glasses at this time, a subtle cat eye purple wireframe pair. I ended up not liking the metal, but also they felt bolder, and so I wore them much less often. I wasn't yet ready for the extra attention I worried they'd bring. They show up in very few of my selfies.
They were not very bold.
No, but they were, for where I had been my whole life, they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the 2-year pick, you can see I'd upgraded to a brighter pink cat eye pair of glasses and also have a lot more feminine top on. That's time I also had a pair of blue and white cat eye glasses. At my last eye exam, my prescription changed, which of course meant it was time for new glasses. And I discovered my previous pairs were somehow much more subtle than I wanted. I wanted ones that were bright, that were fun, that screamed Tilly to the whole world. And so you see my very large iridescent white cat eyeglasses in the 3-year timeline photo. And of course, the pair that always get the most comments from everyone in person and in every selfie they appear in, my large fuchsia heart-shaped cat eyeglasses. And that has 100% been my entire style evolution over time. It's gotten brighter, more feminine, more form-fitting, but also sometimes it's sporty, again like the top I'm wearing in the last photo in the transition timeline. But I wanted the top to be just a tinge more feminine, which the lace from my bra peeking out accomplished nicely. It's all a game of adjustments. So Max, have you finally settled on your style, or is it still evolving? Did it end up where you thought it would be when you started?
I think, I mean, like, obviously, like, with time and how trends change and stuff, like, it will
Yeah,
always evolve in that way.
of
But I
course.
think it's pretty solidly where it's gonna be. And yeah, I mean, it's not where I thought it was going to be when I first started. Like when I first started, it was like I was dressing entirely different than I do now, but
Yeah,
I was working with what I had. Like, and
yeah,
also like I was looking at what like these straight trans guy YouTubers were like all wearing. And I don't know why. I was like, oh, that's how I have to dress. I'm like, no, girl, it's not. Why did you think that? But it just was like this thing that I had in my head or something. And
yep,
like those, I'm sure that you can relate to this, but like the other way, obviously, like I would read those things that were like, and watch those videos that were like clothes you can wear to be read as male and this and wear a hat and wear like this and wear this, and I was like, okay, but it was just so not me. And I think
yeah,
that I kind of figured that out within like, I don't know, the first like 6 to 9 months ish of transition. And then after that, I would say like after having top surgery, I finally became more comfortable like wearing different clothes, and I think I was making more money at my job at that time too. So I was able to like get more stuff, and I got, I think, more hand-me-downs from my brother. So like I just was like, okay, like I'm feeling more like I know what I'm doing and who I am.
yeah,
And like some of the stuff I look back on, like what I wore, I'm like, oh, that's not necessarily what I would wear now, but like it also was like 6 years ago. So I think that I figured it out pretty quick. And then I would say in the past, like since really meeting my partner Michael, I have just kind of relaxed more into what I actually like legit want to wear all the time, rather than feeling like I'm like putting on, I don't know, different kind of, I don't know, presentation of myself than actually is what's inside. I don't even know if that
yeah,
makes sense, but like I used to very much dress like how because I was just going out with all these older cis guys, and like they were very weirdly specific about how they thought people should dress, and how they, not telling me what to wear, but like not, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
just was,
absolutely.
felt pulled in that kind of way. But then when I met Michael, I was like, oh, you don't, this is an older cis guy who is not putting down this kind of energy at all. And he dresses super laid back, super casual, super just like whatever. And I don't know, I feel like he just made me chill out so much more about myself.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think there's also a thing too, like, especially when you're early on in transition and you're still going through a lot of changes and you don't really know who you're going to be or what you're going to look like on the other side. And so I think it's really hard to know then too what your style is going to be, because you're not sure who you are, who you're going to, end up as on the other side of it, or even in the middle of it. So it's a really complicated thing to figure out. And some of my difficulty was in figuring out if I wanted to be girly or badass or feminine or sporty. And to our regular listeners, you've already spotted what happened to me, didn't you? Because what I discovered in trying to unravel all of this was, despite being fully aware of its existence, the false dichotomy had again ensnared me. See episode 11 of this show for more info. Of course, I don't have to be girly or badass. I don't have to be feminine or sporty. I can be all of it anytime I want, which means I can have these very attention-getting girly white platform boots with lots of buckles that have an iridescent metallic hearts on them. But I can also have black buckled boots that are great for kicking someone's ass in a sci-fi movie. And yes, you can see photos of both of them in the text versions of this Trans Tuesday. And sometimes I can be girly and feminine and badass and sporty all at once, and wear a bright iridescent nail polish while wearing a fighting glove and a bright pink exercise top. I mean, generally only when I'm out running. But in any case, I say this a lot. It's kind of like a mantra, but maybe it actually should be. There's no one right way to be trans. There's no one right way to socially transition. There's no one right way to medically transition. There's no one right way to be a woman or a man or non-binary. There's no one right way to dress. Your style can literally be anything you want it to be. Thank you for being here, Max.
Thank you so much again for having me.
Don't let society force you into wearing stuff you don't want to, and it's okay to figure it out as you go, as long as you get to where you want to be at the end. Just be your authentic, fabulous self. Tilly Bridges, end transmission. Tilly's Trans Tuesdays is hosted by Tilly Bridges and Susan Bridges, with audio editing and sound mixing by Jillian Morgan. Special thanks to Daisy and Jane for the use of Sorry Not Sorry as our show's theme music. Please stop by and show your support at daisyandjane.bandcamp.com and soundcloud.com/daisyandjane. You can find me at Tilly Bridges on Twitter and Hive, on Mastodon at tillybridges at mastodon.social, at facebook.com/TillySBridges, and on Insta at HeckYeahTillyBridges. And you can find Susan on all of those at Susan L. Bridges. The Google Doc and social media versions of this week's topic and all past topics are available at Tilly'sTransTuesdays.com. For more information, visit pendantaudio.com. Thanks for listening.